Greetings everyone, Brad here with Mild Mannered EDC. I hope you're all doing really well out there. So today we are going to look at a new offering from Civivi knives here in 2021, as well as the second offering from designer Ben Peterson. And that's this. This is the Civivi Baby Banter. That's right. Now, some of you probably know, or most of you probably know, but some of you might not know, that Ben's first design was the WE Knives Banter, right? So sort of the parent of this knife, right? Well, and speaking of parents, what's interesting is that WE Knives is the parent company of Civivi. So yeah, all kinds of familial things sort of going on here.
That's the way they all became the Brady Bunch.
Now, like any child, right? There are definitely some similarities between the child and the parent, and the Baby Banter and the Banter are no exception. There are definitely some carryovers, but by and large, this is definitely its own knife. It's its own design, and it deserves, I think, to be treated as such. It deserves to not kind of sit in that shadow of the Banter itself. So that's kind of what how we're gonna treat it here on the channel today. So all right, so we're gonna do a few things. We'll do some specs like we usually do, and then some size comparisons, and then we'll get underway with our classic mild-mannered review. I do also want to note though that I'm probably going to be drawing some comparisons during this video to this knife. This is the Spyderco Knives Dragonfly, or Dragonfly 2, I guess in this case, whatever. Partly because I think, you know, in that sub 2.5 inch blade length locking knife sort of category, the Dragonfly really reigned supreme in that for a long time. And I think this is really maybe one of the first most compelling competitors here to sort of wheedle its way into that niche, being the Baby Banter. So we're going to draw some comparisons, I think, as we go through this, if you'll indulge me as we do that.
We don't have a choice.
So, all right, well, let's talk some specs here, shall we, right out of the gate. We've got a blade length here of 2.34 inches on the Baby Banter, a blade thickness of 0.09, a handle length of 3.125, and a handle thickness of 0.41 inches, which gives you an overall, when it's all opened up tip to tail, of 5.46 inches, right? Pretty darn reasonable knife in terms of size, and a very feathery 2 ounces right on the money. So there you go. Now let's talk about a couple of size comparisons so we really get a sense of what we're talking about here. So here is the Civivi Backlash along with the Baby Banter. And since I already had it out there on the table, how about this, the Spyderco Dragonfly? So you can definitely see kind of what we're dealing with, what we're talking about. How about maybe instead of that Dragonfly, classic mild-mannered Swiss Army knife, just to give you a little extra sense there. All right. Oh, cool. I think that's about all we need from the size comparison standpoint. So let's go ahead and get stuck in with our mild-mannered review, shall we? And when we do a classic mild-mannered review, we'll talk about blade, action, scales and hardware, and then ergos and carry. So blade. Got a very nice little drop point, stubby little drop point here on this Baby Banter. It is in I think you can see it there, hopefully, Nitro V steel. There's the marking. You have the Ben Peterson What Is Up Look Guys logo right there. You've got definitely a very, I don't know, stone-washed, sort of tumbled finish there, which I think is quite nice. We've seen that on a number of Civivis here in 2021. You've got blue anodized hardware. You've got some jimping up here, which is more aggressive than you might think. You know, it's sort of that, I don't know if you can, how well you can see that, but it's what I like to call rampart jimping, right? Because it kind of reminds me of the ramparts of a castle here. So anyways, you've got this tall flat grind, comes down to a nice edge that's quite sharp, actually, even a little toothy as grinds go. And definitely, I think Civivi has sort of stepped up their game on grinds a little bit this year, and that's showing. But the termination point is well in front of the plunge line. So all that's done very, very nicely. You do have this finger choil here, and again, we'll talk about that later in the review. A couple of blue anodized thumb studs. But yeah, I mean, it's pretty straightforward. Now, as I mentioned, it's not the thickest of blade stock, but you do have a pretty sturdy tip here. So again, this is sort of just a stout, small, yet still very slicey little blade. And I think it really gets the job done and is pretty attractive on top of that. So, all right. Now, let's talk about action. Yeah, this is a very nice, very fidgety, if you'll allow me to say that. I know some people groan when we talk about knives having the fidget factor. But this one definitely does. And this Baby Banter is running on caged ceramic ball bearings, just like its parent, the Banter, was, or is, I guess. And you're deployed here by thumb studs with a liner lock. And the lock, everything's kind of small in there, right? But it's about a 50% lockup, which I think is just fine for that. It's not necessarily early or late. It's just where it needs to be, I think, for this type of thing. And I'm actually really enjoying liner locks more and more these days. I'm getting sort of fatigued by the frame lock world out there. So I don't know. Anyways, a little bit of an aside there. But yeah, I mean, from an action standpoint, right? I mean, you can flip this open with your thumb with authority. I suppose you could pinch it open like you can many, many knives. You can do the spider flick or middle finger flick, or I think I've heard it once referred to as the reverse finger flick. Whatever. So, from an action standpoint, there's no blade rock, no blade play at all. It's very, very sturdy. And, centering. There you go. I mean, this is just a really enjoyable action for a knife this size. It's not something as I fail it, of course, it's not something you usually get. As knives get smaller and smaller, it can be harder and harder to get an action that's pretty decent. Not maybe because the knife isn't well made, but it's just because the blade becomes very lightweight, and it's more difficult to get it to do things that we might consider with other knives in terms of, wow, that's a really nice little action. But for $60, which is what this knife is running you, yeah, I'm pretty impressed with this action and kind of overall the fidgetability of it. I've really enjoyed having this kind of in my pocket for that time. So let's talk about scales and hardware while we're moving that direction, shall we? So we've got this black G10, obviously the Civivi branded logo, a couple of hardware screws there. You notice a pretty significant lanyard hole. So, if you want to throw a pretty good sized lanyard in there, feel free. You've got flow-through construction with a barrel spacer, the two barrel spacers, obviously right there. And then you've got a stainless steel pocket clip. That's nicely done, and we'll talk about that in carry. Interestingly, I think in terms of hardware, and this is just a question I have, Civivi does this, and I don't know why, but it may just be part of their calling card, but you'll notice, it's got this nice flat flush feeling here to the decorative side of the pivot. On the back, though, you've got this little bit of, it protrudes a little bit, and I'm not sure why. I don't know why they couldn't also make that flush. Everything else is sort of flush on this knife. It seems a little odd to me that they're doing these, but it's not just this knife. I mean, they've done it on a number of these, and this is an older backlash, so it's sort of there. Anyways, is it anything that's functional or a problem? No, not at all, but it is a little bit of a curiosity to me as to why they do that. And if anybody knows, I'd love to hear, but yeah, I don't know. It's just interesting. I don't imagine that a flat pivot can cost all that much more. So anyways, or really be any more expensive. So, okay. So that's what we've got here with scales and hardware. Let's talk about ergos and carry. And this, along with the action, this is really where this little knife shines. It really just fits beautifully, at least in my hand. And you know what? The other Banter, the Wee Banter, the first design in this line, I guess, also did as well. It had really nice ergos, and it also had a nice action for that matter. But for whatever reason, I really find this one super comfortable. And again, this is where I start to draw these comparisons to, something like the Dragonfly, which I find also to be a very comfortable knife, particularly in that choked up position, which is, I think, what you kind of will have a tendency to do with these smaller blades, right? You want to be kind of up on them so you can get whatever it is, that work done that you're trying to do, which is generally what you do when you carry a small blade. Anyways, it's just my sense on that. But the ergos really feel fantastic. Now, you definitely don't have to choke up. You can go back here and sort of do the 3-finger, kind of whatever, which is fine. I do feel the pocket clip a little bit more, and I feel like I'm sort of forcing my hand more into that position, which is ironic because this is definitely, when it's choked up, is sort of in a choil where it's telling my hand where to go. But this feels way more comfortable and just feels much more natural. So for me, this is how I've been using this knife when it comes out of the pocket. So Anyways, I think overall, yet again, a really nicely done design. And in fact, maybe a bit of a better design in terms of ergos, in my view, on the Baby Banter than on the Wee Knives version. So, of the bigger Banter. So, there you go with that. Now, Carry. Carry has been beautiful, right? It's a relatively thin knife. It's obviously lightweight and small and pretty compact. Civivi really did a nice job with this stainless steel clip. It's got nice spring to it, but not too little or too much. But it's also not a tiny clip. As you can see, it goes almost 2/3, I suppose, of the distance of the knife here. I think that really helps to keep these little guys in the pocket when you're using them. But you also have recessed screws as well as a flush-mounted clip itself. So, this is one of those, if you do want something very discreet, this is definitely something to consider because it's not only small and lightweight, but it just has that really deep carry ability. So very, very nice in terms of carry overall. So what's kind of my overall thought on this? Well, let's bring out this yet again. Like I said, for a long time, I really feel like the Dragonfly has sort of been king of the sub 2.5-inch locking knife niche, and for good reason. It's a beautifully made knife. It's got
Whoa!
let me back up from that statement. It's a well-made knife. It's got a really beautiful blade. In particular, it comes, like many Spydercos, in a variety of steels and flavors and whatever you kind of want, which is very, very cool. And it's super lightweight. I mean, it's hard to beat this in terms of lightweight. It's like 1.2 ounces or something. I mean, it's super, super light. But it does have a few drawbacks, in my opinion. One, it's got classic Seki City centering here, right? Come on, there you go. Move over. Yeah. It feels it can feel a little cheapy, particularly with these FRN models. The bidirectional sometimes can feel a little grippy to me. I'm not huge on this particular clip on the Dragonfly. It's short, it's stout, it sticks out quite a bit. I mean, a lot of these do, but it's not deep carry either. I mean, and again, not that every clip needs to be, but I don't think, comparatively, I think I like the clip on the Baby Banter better. So, and again, from the ergo standpoint, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think maybe this might still hold an edge in terms of sliciness, but this is the Baby Banter is really the first competitor that I have seen in this niche in a while that I would say, yeah, these two can go toe to toe. And it's really, I think, a matter of what you might like. Important to consider that I think the most expensive that I've seen, the Baby Banter, is $60. The very cheapest version of the Dragonfly that I can find is $70.
Interesting.
So really pushing the envelope here in terms of being a knife in this category that I think is very, very compelling and very well done. And it's not just a gimmick. This is not just a miniaturized version of the original that they could sell because, everybody likes Ben and it's got good publicity. Like the original Banter, there was a lot of compelling value to the original knife. And I think this Baby Banter is equally so. And if you're the Dragonfly, take notice. There's a new kid in town, and kid knows what he's doing as it relates to being an EDC knife. So really well done, Civivi, I think, and nicely done, Ben, on taking a design and maybe making it smaller, but also making it its own thing and doing it very well. So really do like this knife. I actually think I give this a mild-mannered masterpiece designation, which, I don't give out a ton, but I think this one deserves it. I like it. I like not only the story, I like the price. I like that it's an iteration, but it's not identical to its progenitor. Is that the right word? I don't remember if that's son or if that's like child or parent. Anyways, you get what I'm saying. So anyways, I hope you've enjoyed this review. This is a really interesting knife. If you're looking and enjoy those kind of small knives and you kind of like the story and you're looking for some value, and maybe you're wanting to kind of supplement your collection in this category, check out the Civivi Baby Banter. It really is, I think, a bit of a winner in my book. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you've really enjoyed it. I certainly have enjoyed doing this for you all. Please stay safe out there. Be mild-mannered to one another, and all the best.